Another thing that from a timing point of view is interesting. I was at iMedia last week and did a presentation out there on the rate at which people are clicking on ads, and this has been kind of a pet topic of mine. I've done a lot of talks in the industry. I think trying to educate people to the degree to which the click is or is not a relevant metric if you want to measure advertising effectiveness for display campaigns. So here's the latest stats. And this was a study that we had done first initially 2 years ago, and now we just updated it. All right? So over the course of the past 2 years, the number of people clicking on display ads has dropped by 50%. Today, only 8% of the internet user base is accounting for 85% of all the clicks. Right? Now think about it. If you're optimizing your display campaign for clicks, you're basically saying, I don't care about the 92% that isn't clicking. You're ignoring it. You're ignoring the vast, vast majority. And we've done a lot of other work looking at the branding impact of display campaigns. And it's pretty clear, if you use the metric of a click, you are just totally missing the impact that these campaigns are really having, totally understating it. So that's something that I think is a big educational objective that we have as a company. I think if we can get it, communicate it, it'll be good for the industry. And here's why it's important. A Forrester survey recently showed that a third of VPs of marketing or CMOs still think that the click is the metric to use to evaluate the effectiveness of branding campaigns. I mean, we just got a lot of education to do.
It's not all that surprising. And interestingly, we came at sort of the same conclusion from a different direction. For our clients, search, well, at least we consider search much more than a media. It's also a metric, because in addition to doing things like view-through conversion tracking in order to try to determine whether or not there was influence impacted by a display campaign, we've built some correlative models and media mix models that show that once you break a certain threshold, you can see direct correlative effects between more display advertising and search activity. Right. Yeah. So search becomes the metric by which you measure the effectiveness of the campaign. We've been able to do some fascinating things along those lines. For example, for one of our clients, whenever their competition does a homepage takeover on Yahoo, we know that there'll be a spike in generic traffic in Google, because so many people use the toolbar. Right. And you would say, well, that's crazy. They could have just clicked on the ad. But that's not what they did. Right. A certain slice of people, and again, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's sufficiently large that we can use it as a sample, essentially, are then basically seeing an ad, using it as a call to action, and then doing a search in an alternate search engine and showing up as another way of capturing those individuals. So there's a lot of ways we'll be able to use data to sort of reinforce the effectiveness of media above and beyond the click.
Yeah, and I think the industry is beginning. I shouldn't say beginning. The industry is making progress in understanding how advertising works and how it doesn't work, and some of the simplistic notions that led to, I think, the development of the medium as a direct response medium, I think are now being questioned. And we have to question them, because if you look at the numbers, the internet is only capturing 5% of all the branding dollars that are being spent out there. It's capturing 30% of the direct response dollars, but only 5% of branding dollars. And so an interesting question is, why is it? My personal feeling is because we've been so short-term focused. I mean, if you're going to use a click, you won't take into account, as you just described, the latent impact. And I sometimes say to people, why don't we acknowledge that in the advertising industry, there were some brilliant minds over the past 30 or 40 years that looked at how advertising affected consumer behavior. They weren't idiots. The David Ogilvy's, the Leo Burnett's, and so forth. Why don't we maybe look to them as being able to teach us something and not ignoring them, and think that, that everything about advertising begins and starts here. So I'm encouraged that I'm seeing the industry beginning to kind of peel back the onion and not make these simplistic assumptions, and they're beginning to, I think, as a result, learn more about how advertising really works.